A new Democratic-backed nonprofit group is opening up a new front in the 2020 election. The issue, integrity, and they've got their first target. It's Republican Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, who heads the Senate Oversight Committee. The Congressional Integrity Project shared its first report with NBC News, raising new questions about the senator's actions on Capitol Hill and his personal finances, and whether he used his power to enrich himself. The report alleges that Senator Johnson, quote, has likely seen his personal fortune double as he has advocated for policies that have benefited him financially while he has been in office. Joining our conversation is NBC News correspondent Heidi Presbella, who's done extensive reporting on this story. Also joining us, our friend Jason Johnson, professor of politics and journalism at Morgan State University. He's also a contributor to the GRIO and an MSNBC political contributor. Heidi, this is your reporting. Take me through it.
And Nicole, this is the opening salvo for this new group of Democratic watchdog heavyweights. They say that Ron Johnson is just the first target, and they gave us a preview of what is going to be a major focus on Republicans who are supposed to be tasked with very serious oversight roles over issues like the coronavirus, like election interference, like police brutality. And yet Democrats say these members, these Republican committee chairs and leadership members, are using those powers instead to conduct politically motivated investigations like the one of the Bidens that Senator Johnson is conducting. So specifically, what they're going to do here is drill down on what they call self-dealing and potential ethics violations and corruption. And in this case, they're focusing on Senator Johnson's former stake in his family plastics business. They say he broke a campaign pledge to put that business into a blind trust, then sold his stake in that company for for millions, they say, potentially millions more than what he had valued it for, and that in that time, his own self-net worth had increased by at least 50 to 100%, that he sold that stake also to a campaign donor, that he's not disclosing details of it. Now, Senator Johnson's office, I had a long talk with them, and they say there is absolutely nothing untoward about this, that he couldn't do a blind or didn't do a blind trust because, it's his brother who owns the company. So really, how blind can it be? But we did find that campaign promise. It definitely happened, Nicole, and they're not telling us how much he profited off of it. And importantly, I ran this all past the nonpartisan Center for Responsive Politics, and they said that this is definitely something that is worth looking into, given the ownership tangled web here, and the fact that it looks like he sold the company for far more, or the stake for far more than what it had always been valued for it on those Senate disclosure forms, Nicole. So really the Democrats here launching this new effort to focus on Republicans who they say are shirking their responsibilities to provide a check on the Trump administration, Nicole.
Well, and Jason, we get wrapped up in stories like the impeachment of the president, the pandemic that has our entire country in its grips. And sometimes these stories, like Heidi's reporting and a lot of the stories by David Fahrenthold, they don't lead the news the way they would for a normal president. But the corruption and the refusal at the beginning of the Trump presidency to even try not to enrich himself really was the original sin, right? The original ethics norm busting that may have put us on this path.
Yeah, these guys are wrapped up in corruption with a sprinkle of emoluments and buried in a swamp. I mean, we've seen that pretty much since Trump got into office. I'm very happy to see that the Democrats have launched their own little junior version of the Lincoln Project. And they're actually going to start going after Republicans for not just going after someone, because this is not an election year for Ron Johnson. He's not up until 2022. But they're focusing on the fact that you have sitting politicians who are not doing their job. I think this is an excellent thing for the Democrats to be doing and focusing on a regular basis. And look, it's not just Senator Johnson. We have this scandal down in Georgia. We have this scandal with sitting members of the Trump administration. Someone has to pay attention to the fact that you have large numbers of politicians right now who have been basically enriching themselves as the country faces financial ruin during coronavirus. So I think this is an excellent effort. I hope that they do begin to target some of the people who are up for election this fall, because I think this kind of information could have even greater impact.
Jason Johnson and Heidi are staying with us. When we come back, Joe Biden now days away from naming his vice presidential running mate, and new clues have emerged about who he might be thinking of picking. That story's next.